Hello students, uh, today we will be covering the cancer topic of the CSIR NET syllabus. So here we will be talking about the unit 4 which has cancer as one of the main topics. So let me share my slide as you can see. So we will be covering about the cancer. We will be covering this topic in 2 lectures. This is the first lecture of the cancer. So this will cover the cancer biology in detail, specifically in relation to the CSIR UGC NET questions and the topics which has been asked in those questions or covered in those questions in the exam. So as you can see, myself, I am Naman Trivedi. I am assistant professor at KM Science College in Ahmedabad. You can see my qualifications, okay, and I had been teaching for SAT and NET since couple of years, okay. So we'll be covering basics of cancer, genetic rearrangements in progenitor cells, oncogenes, tumor suppressor genes, p53 role protein that is will be covering as a part of the tumor suppressor gene, cancer and cell cycle as well as apoptosis. So these are the main topics which we'll cover in the lecture 1 of the cancer biology of CSIR UGC NET. So we'll take some of the questions and then we'll go on to the topics. As you can see over here, in December 2017 NET, okay, the question in the section C of the NET, they have asked this question about the proto-oncogene and tumor suppressor gene, as you can see, okay, which contribute to the development of the cancer. Okay, so we all know, and you might be knowing, you might have studied in your syllabus, but we'll also cover the same thing in today's lecture. So in relation to this, you have to choose the correct statement. So you have to read all the statements carefully. Especially, I advise you to read such kind of questions at least twice because things can get mingled up. So to avoid that, kindly read the question carefully and each of the points separately. Now, over here, the proto-oncogenes results in development of cancer by gain of function mutation, whereas tumor suppressor gene led by loss of function. This is correct, which we'll cover in this lecture also. Now, so the second statement is incorrect, as you can see over here. Okay, this is also incorrect because mutation in one of the alleles can also lead to the cancer. That is, if proto-oncogene has 2 alleles, as you know, we receive 2 separate sets and there are 2 alleles for a particular gene. In that condition also, cancer can happen even if there is one of the alleles is mutated. Okay, so for both the genes, so proto-oncogene and tumor suppressor gene, A and D are correct. So that's why the answer A and D has been mentioned. We'll cover about loss of gain function and the gain of function and the loss of function mutation in detail in this lecture. Second question they were asked in 2015 December was about some of the tumor suppressor proteins. So we'll cover in this lecture that p53 is a tumor suppressor protein. So over here, if you see this question, there are a few statements. So the first statement is cellular level of tumor suppressor protein p53 is maintained by ubiquitin ligase protein. Okay, this is the first sentence. MDM2 is another protein overexpression. If it is expressed more than the required, then it can also convert normal cell into cancerous cell by destabilizing p53. So there are 2 proteins, MDM2, p53, as you can see. Another protein, p19ARF, inhibits the activity of MDM2, thus stabilizing p53. This is the third statement. Okay, so p19ARF is required for inhibition of MDM2 and then it leads to the normal cell because it stabilizes the p53, as you can see. Now, loss of p19ARF function can also convert normal cells into cancerous cells. Okay, yeah, it's very obvious, evident from the above statement. So even in this kind of questions, please read these questions at least twice or thrice. Okay, and you must be quick enough to read it. You have to choose the correct statement. So what you have to identify, which are tumor suppressor genes or which are oncogenes, that you have to identify. So in this relation, MDM2 leads to cancer, so it's an oncogene, it's very obvious. And p19ARF is because it suppresses the tumor suppressor gene because it stabilizes the p53 and it prevents the cancer. So this statement is correct. MDM2 is an oncogene where p19ARF is a tumor suppressor gene. So it's very easy, just they are checking your knowledge and concept clarity. So it's very basic knowledge which you studied in your undergraduation, post-graduation. Okay, so make sure you just read the sentence and whatever names they give you. Okay, p19, p53, do not get confused by that and answer accordingly. So here the correct answer is MDM2 is an oncogene, but p19ARF is a tumor suppressor gene. I will cover all these things in detail in the topic of the cancer. So I have prepared this lecture as per the content given in the next syllabus. Okay, Okay, but before we start, you should need to know basics, because sometimes they also put basics questions. So oncology, it is the study of cancer. That's the doctors who treat cancer and the oncologist. Oncogenes, the genes which cause cancer. Okay, you might know about the origin of the name cancer and all, so I'm not going in all those details. Cell cycle, okay, you might know that G1, G2, and G0 phases are there for a normal cell, okay, eukaryotic cell. Benign and malignant tumor, okay, metastasis, so tumors are of two kinds. If it is localized, we call it benign. If it spreads, we call it malignant, which we'll cover in detail in the second part of this lecture. Metastasis, that is the spread of the cancer through different parts of the body from a particular site. It's metastasis. So we then call that if cancer spreads to many other organs, we call that it is mainly metastasized. Okay, neoplasm. So any sort of cancerous tissue or a group of cells which is neoplastic cells. Okay, which we call as neoplasm. The property exhibited by them is neoplasticity. Okay, so cancerous cells are neoplastic cells, or we call them a group of cancerous cells or a group of tumor of cancerous cells, we call as neoplasm. Okay, mitotic growth. You know mitotic division, so there will show uncontrolled mitotic growth index. That is, there will be more number of will show high rate of cell division, cell proliferation also. Okay. Apart from that, you should also know that cancer cells will basically do not show the property of contact inhibition. Okay, there are two types of contact inhibition, that is contact inhibition by proliferation and contact inhibition by locomotion. So cancerous cells, when raised in a monolayer, okay, two cells will not stop dividing by coming in physical contact with each other. So cancerous cells will not exhibit contact inhibition. So this is very pretty basic things. So I have quickly moved through all of this. So let's move to the next part. So this is one of the most important topics of this lecture. So genetic rearrangement in progenitor cells. So basically there are two corollaries or theories which says that how cancer can happen. So either it can initiate by genetic changes, as you can see, that is if changes happen in DNA sequence, or either it can happen by changes in the pattern of gene expression without change in DNA sequence. Now be careful. Genetic changes refers to DNA sequence changes or changes in DNA. It's very evident. Epigenetic refers to the post-translational modification or the things which happen after the gene expression. So gene expression refers to the formation of the protein in translation. It mainly refers to processes like methylation as well as the what we call as the post-translational modification. So most cancers are initiated by genetic changes. Okay, as you should know. However, recently we have also came to know that fundamentally it could also got epigenetic basis or polyclonal basis. If it is starts from the single cell, we call it monoclonal basis, but it has polyclonal basis. Okay, so the progenitor cells or the precursor cells, as we call, or what we call as the stem cells, basically. Okay, so as you know, there are several types of cancers and there are several basic stem cells which leads to formation of so many different types of blood cells, for example. So such stem cells can act as progenitor cells, and in such cells, if there is such sort of epigenetic changes, then it can lead to the cancer. It is also termed as it is mediated by tumor progenitor gene. So both the theories are there. Recently, we believe in epigenetic theory more. Okay. So as you can see, this is the recent model, epigenetic progenitor model. Okay. So it has been basically it's in a publication of the Nature as such. So I put and also mentioned in the references. So as you can see, it's a progenitor cell, a precursor cell. Okay. Now these cells will show epigenetic changes. Okay, as you can see, and it will start to divide. Okay, now you can see oncogenes, tumor suppressor genes, and gatekeeper mutations, which we'll talk about that, will lead to the tumor. Now this benign tumor will also, the cells will divide, the tumor will increase. Okay, and then it will spread to many other places, or this event can happen at the same time at so many places in the body. Okay, so it leads to a primary cancer, and then from there it can get it can undergo metastasis, or it can spread to other part of the body. Okay, so GKM stands for gatekeeper mutation. Okay, so the genetically altered epigenetic, so there is epigenetic changes happening in the progenitor cell or progenitor stem cell, which leads to the development of the tumor, and then it will get metastasized. So it will take some time, it will develop into a tumor at local site, and then it will spread to other parts of the body. This is what we call as epigenetic progenitor model. So it refers that the differentiated progenitor stem cells, okay, which is responsible for formation of so many other cells, will lead to this kind of cancer. Okay, so there are epigenetic changes, or the changes like methylation or post-translational modification can lead to this kind of cancer. Okay, so now we understand the same thing in the theoretical world. So it's important for your question. So as you can see over here that according to this model, the cancer will arise in 3 steps. So first is the epigenetic alteration of the stem cells, as I have already explained. okay, by the apparent regulation of tumor progenitor genes. So they have certain genes, or okay, which you can also call as the proto-oncogenes, and the alteration will lead to even cancers, that it will lead to a damage or and under any other external environmental factors. Okay, it can get mutated and lead to cancer. Second is gatekeeper mutation, GKM, as I have stated, which mainly happens in the tumor suppressor gene, so which is guardians of the genome, as we call that. So this tumor suppressor genes, okay, in them there is a rearrangement of the oncogenes, especially in leukemia, blood cancer, lymphoma, cancer of the blood cells, lymphocytes. GKM are mainly monoclonal. It starts with single cell. Monoclonal means it starts with single cell, and it will be expanded to the other parts, okay, in the other cells, and the mutation will happen until this mutation will lead to the tumor. So the gatekeeper mutation happening in tumor suppressor genes can also lead to cancer. Third is epigenetic instability, which leads to increased tumor evolution. That means epigenetic instability explains that there will be post-translational modificational changes or expression, the expression changes happening after the gene expression, which can increase the tumor. So either it can happen by the aberrant regulation of tumor progenitor genes or mutation in those genes, or it can happen by mutation in gatekeeper mutations in tumor suppressor genes. We'll talk about this in detail further. Okay, so I'm not again like right now going over this. So these tumor suppressor genes are guardians of the genome. So what happens that mutation in those can lead to this tumor. So basically, these are the termed as gatekeeper mutations because they take care of this. So that termed as gatekeeper, their security, and their role is to secure the environment so that there will be no tumor in the normal DNA replication process or normal cell division. Third is epigenetic instability, which leads to tumor evolution. Now, in relation to the molecular basis of the cancer, they also ask this question. So now pay your attention. We'll talk about that. There are some genes whose genetic and epigenetic changes contribute to causation of cancer. Is described as cancer critical genes. They are grouped in two classes. Gain of function mutation. Remember the question December 2017, which I have taken as the initiation of the lecture. When we have started the lecture, I have taken that question. So gain of function mutation leads to proto-oncogene. Okay, which happens in proto-oncogenes and leads to cancer. Loss of function mutation happens in tumor suppressor gene. It also leads to cancer. These two are very important. They ask some of the times they also ask very basic questions like in which genes gain of function mutation will happen and it can lead to cancer. So that is proto-oncogene. Okay. So proto-oncogenes are those genes which are present in all of us, okay, which have potential to mutate and can cause cancer. But usually in normal circumstances, they do not mutate. But if there is some sort of mutation, there is gain of function mutation. It explains that the function is added or the function is gained. Then it leads to the proto-oncogene. Loss of function means the function is lost. There is some loss in the role. In tumor suppressor genes, the gatekeeper mutation, as I told you earlier, it can also lead to the like the cancer. And TSG, the tumor suppressor genes are abbreviated, expanded TSG. Mutations can be either dominant or recessive. It depends on what kind of mutation and what kind of genes are there. So these two are very important, which I have put in bold. So kindly pay your attention. Now we have some examples of proto-oncogenes and their products, as you can see. Out of these, MYC and KRAS and SRC are important, okay? And the products, as you can see, SRC synthesizes tyrosine kinase, it also synthesizes tyrosine kinase. It synthesizes some of the transcription factors. I hope you know what is transcription. So it is the process of formation of the, what we call as the, from the factors, okay, which will play a role in the transcription process. And transcription is defined as formation of mRNA from the DNA, as you might be knowing. So can just go through it, okay? It's very important, but SRC, MYC, and KRAS are important. Okay, so I hope we can move forward. So there are oncogenes. The genes which can cause cancer are termed as oncogenes. So basically, this has been named as proto-oncogenes. The normal cells will have proto-oncogenes. Okay, normal cells will have proto-oncogenes. So we all have such kind of genes which plays role in growth factor, synthesis or receptor or transcription factors. Okay. Now the cells which are transformed, that means which can cause cancer. So you can have two types of proto-oncogenes. That is, it can be cellular oncogenes or it can be viral oncogenes. Sometimes certain viruses can also cause cancer because they have viral oncogenes. So this, if it is induced by viruses, we call it as it has been transferred by, just a moment. If it is caused by viruses, we call that it has been, the cells which has been transformed into cancerous ones. Then such genes found inside the virus which can cause cancer are termed as viral oncogenes, which we'll cover in the next part of the lecture. And the cellular counterparts. the cellular counterparts of viral oncogenes inside our body, okay, we call them as the cellular oncogenes, the C-onc. So C-onc are pretty much found in all of us, okay, but under certain circumstances they can mutate and they can lead to cancer, but it does not always happen. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we also call it V-onc and C-onc. Okay, you might know the original story of how it was discovered, but that's a separate thing. So I'm not going in that. So it is qualitatively and quantitatively altered expression of the protein, okay, which can happen because of C-onc or cellular oncogenes, which are the cellular counterparts of the viral oncogenes. So both of these you should know. Viral oncogenes, the cancer-causing genes in viruses, are termed as the viral oncogenes or V-onc, and which are present in our cells or which are termed as C-onc. Okay, these proto-oncogenes have potential to cause cancer, and then we can call them a cellular oncogenes. Transformed cells means which has been transformed into cancerous ones. The cells which has been transformed into the cancerous ones, or which is from normal cells has been transformed. So they may have either viral oncogenes. This has been used by viruses, okay, which we call as V-onc, or it can be also termed as C-onc. Okay. Now there are so many chromosomal aberrations or mutations which can cause cancer. As you can see over here, I've given some of the examples of chronic myelogenous leukemia, acute myelogenous leukemia, retinoblastoma, and Wilms tumor. This happens by translocation. This happens by translocation, by deletion, This is important for questions, so kindly pay your attention. We'll take this example of the translocation between chromosome 9 and 22 of humans to study the chronic myelogenous leukemia. Okay. So apart from that, there is also amplification or insertion or inactivation. All those can also be basis of the cancer. Okay, but for our question, translocation then is highly important. So we'll discuss it. So as you can see, this is the chromosome number 9. This is not chromosome number 20. These are normal chromosomes. Okay. Now, if a part of this segment of the chromosome is transferred over here, so as you can see, the part of this segment has been, as you know, it has been removed from here and it is transferred to here. So it gets transferred to here in the chromosome number 22. So translocation of the chromosomal segment happens from chromosome 9 to 22. Now it is a gene called mainly which is CABL, and there's a gene for BCR. Now if it is transferred into chromosome number 9, then combinedly it has both the genes, BCR and ABL. Now both the genes will express itself. Such a chromosome where the translocation from chromosome number 22 to chromosome number 9 had happened, we call it as a Philadelphia chromosome. We call it as a Philadelphia chromosome, as you can see over here. Okay. So this is, remember what is Philadelphia chromosome. So it has segment of the chromosome number 9. Now it is both the genes, BCR and ABL. Okay. So what will happen in chronic myelogenous leukemia, a kind of blood cancer? There is abnormal Philadelphia chromosome. Okay, I'm not going into the story why it was named and all, because that's not the focus of the lecture. You might read it summarized also, and you might be knowing, a lot of you might be knowing also. As a result of reciprocal 922 translocation. So chromosome number 9 segment gets transferred to chromosome number 22, and we refer as the reciprocal translocation. Now what will happen if we produce a chimera? Chimera means there's two different combinations. Okay, for example, if there is head of a lion and body of human, okay, like the famous Egyptian ancient structures, okay, the things as you might know, it's a chimera. So chimeric BCR-ABL gene is produced. So it forms a protein which is fusion of both of these. So individually, ABL normal protein is not produced. So it calls for a fusion protein which exhibits constitutive tyrosine kinase activity, which leads to cancer. So remember this role of this protein in producing an enzyme which is tyrosine kinase. It exhibits a constitutive activity that you should know. So this chimeric product is tyrosine kinase, okay, and it's a fusion protein instead of the only ABL protein, and this leads to the cancer which is chronic myelogenous leukemia. Okay, there are also other reasons like deletion, okay, amplification of certain DNA part, okay, there is loss of DNA repair, okay, functioning, and also insertional inactivation. But mainly the questions has been asked from this part, so we're not going in that. Then second is tumor suppressor gene. Okay, so these are directly or indirectly they mainly inhibit cell growth. Now they prevent normal cells from getting transformed into a cancerous cell. So these are also termed as gatekeepers or caretakers. Okay, why gatekeeper caretaker? Because their role is basically to secure the processes. So they promote or inhibit the cell death. Okay, so we call them gatekeepers, which promotes genetic stability. We call them as caretakers. So both the roles are there. So mutation happens in them, and we call it as a gatekeeper mutation. Remember the epigenetic progenitor model. Examples are p53 gene, RB1, BRCA1, BRCA2. Okay, so it is in relation to BRCA in relation to breast cancer genes. Okay, retinoblastoma and p53 kilodalton protein. Very important. So the broadly classified the proteins anchored by tumor suppressor genes are which can regulate or inhibit progression to specific stage of cell cycle C. So they can basically inhibit the progression in the cell cycle p16 RB. Okay, they can act as a receptors. Okay, to inhibit cell proliferation. I hope you know proliferation is number of cells dying in a cell-identity ratio. Checkpoint control arrests the cell cycle if DNA is damage or chromosomes are abnormal. P53 is very important. Okay, we'll talk about that for checkpoint control in the cell cycle. Proteins which promote apoptosis. Okay, and enzymes that participate in DNA repair. Okay, so P53 is the discussion of this is the most important for questions in NET. So we'll discuss that. So all you need to know about P53 I have mentioned over here. P53 is basically a tumor suppressor gene. Okay, peptide of 75 amino acid residues. So it's basically a protein, as you know. Now this gene is mainly formed by, this protein is mainly formed by a gene which is P53, also known as the cell cycle regulatory. In fact, basically it acts as a transcription factor which regulates the expression of cell cycle regulatory proteins like cyclins and cyclin-dependent kinases, as you know. It's on the chromosome number 17 that you should know. Okay. But if mutations will happen and it gets oncogenic, so it is a tumor suppressor gene, and the protein formed is P53 protein, the 53 kilodalton protein, so it was named P53. So it mainly leads the role in genomic stability during mitotic proliferation. So as you know, mitosis it is responsible for maintaining the genome stability. Okay. So now, as you know, P53 basically mediates the arrest of the cell at the G1S checkpoint, okay, or the boundary. As you know, the cell cycle has G1S, G2, okay. So the first checkpoint is within G1S. So it basically stops the cell, okay. As you can see over here, this is G1 and S. So over here, it's the G1 checkpoint P53 mainly plays role, okay. So if it checks out whether there is any DNA damage or not, okay. And it also affects the G2 checkpoint. So if there is any DNA damage, then it leads to DNA repair, okay, if it can be fixed, okay. And if there is any carcinogenic chances, then it will stop it. It will not allow it to process further. It will arrest the cell division at the checkpoint. It also leads to general genomic DNA, okay, and the binding of proteins in DNA repair. It also leads to apoptosis of the cells having the irreparable damage. DNA apoptosis is programmed cell death. So from the cells, as I told you that at the first checkpoint it checks out whether there is any damaged DNA or not. So if there is any damaged DNA, then in that case, P53 what it will do, it will mainly, which cannot be repaired or which is irreparable, then it will mainly process or it will push those cells to undergo the apoptosis or programmed cell death. Okay, and mutations in this is responsible for more than 50% of the human cancer. These are all the important information for P53. You should know that it mainly arrests the cell at G1S checkpoint, and also it can affect at the G2 checkpoint. Responsible for apoptosis in irreparable DNA damage cases. It also repair the DNA. Okay, and it can also, if it doesn't function normally, it can lead to the cancer. It is also gatekeeper, as you know. So here it plays the role, as you can see. So everything is okay. Cell goes into second phase of the cell cycle. Okay, then it goes G2 checkpoint. Also, it can influence it. And then if everything is home, cell will divide at the M phase, the matrix division, and two new cells can be formed, as you can see. So it plays role at the G1 checkpoint. So make sure you pay your attention. It is very important for questions. Now, if we talk about the normal P53, as you can see, there is normal P53 is there. Okay, it binds to the DNA. So the cell holds at the G1 checkpoint. Why? Because it plays role with the G1S cyclins and cyclin-dependent kinases, as you might know, which are the regulatory proteins at the checkpoints. So DNA repair gets activated. Okay, if it is not basically repaired, it is not irreparable. In that case, apoptosis is triggered, and cell will not. So the cell cannot pass the damage. Nuclear cancer cannot happen. So it happens in normal conditions. P53 gene will form this protein, which will do this functioning. Okay. So if everything is basically normalized, then CDK and G1 cyclin will play their role in the cell cycle will progress. But if it has damaged DNA, P53 will not allow it to play that role, and thus the cell cycle progression will stop. As you can, just a moment, yeah. So CDK inhibitor, CDK G1S cyclins are all regular cell cycle regulatory proteins. Okay. Now P53 will get activated, binds with it. Okay, with the regulatory protein, it plays a role in that. As you can see, I have explained it over here. That maintenance of genomic stability. Okay, so regulation of key cell responses can mediate arrest of the cell. Okay, as you can see over here. So it acts as a transcription factor which regulates the expression of cell cycle regulatory protein. So what will happen that the CDK and G1 cyclin will not get basically activated without this P53. P53 can lead as a transcription factor for activation of this. If all these are problems, DNA is damaged, then it will not allow it to go further. Now, if it is non-functional, it cannot bind, it cannot be formed, it is okay, cannot bind to it, the cycle will go on. All these processes will not happen, as you can see, and damaged DNA will be passed on, it can lead to cancer. So these are all of the P53. So P53 is highly important. Make sure you know this entire process. Okay. So from the topics which we have discussed till now, the most important part from this is the role of P53. Okay, loss of function mutation, gain of function mutation. Okay, tumor suppressor genes are most important from this. Here these are my references. Here we end the first lecture. Here we end the first lecture of the cancer topic, and I'll see you in the second lecture of the cancer, which will cover the remaining parts of the cancer unit from the NAT syllabus. Okay, so over here I would like to end this lecture. Make sure guys you go through the questions, you go through each and every slide. The content of the slide has been concise in such a manner that you can specifically prepare for the exam. It will be helpful to answer the questions directly in the net. As you all the questions will come to. This is your Professor Naman Trivedi.